A man washed ashore on a tiny island in the Pacific, naked, a knife in his hand, screaming in a language nobody understood. He had not seen another human being in over a year. His name was Salvador, and what happened to him out there, nobody fully believed. On November 17, 2012, Salvador Alvarenga left the coast of Mexico on a small fishing boat. He planned to be back in 2 days. He was gone for 438. When he was found, he had drifted over 11,000 kilometers across the Pacific Ocean, alone, no motor, no sail, no radio, no way to steer. He ate raw birds with his bare hands. He drank turtle blood to survive. He watched his only companion die in front of him, and then he carried the body for 6 days, because he could not let go. When he finally came home, nobody believed him. The family of the man who died accused him of the worst thing a human being can do, and Salvador said nothing, because he knew what really happened out there. 438 days, no rescue, no help, just one man and an ocean that refused to let him die easy, and he would carry it for the rest of his life. Salvador Alvarenga was not the kind of man people remember. Born in El Salvador, no education, no money, no plan. He left his home country in 2002 and walked to Mexico, carrying nothing but a small backpack and worn clothes. He found a village on the coast, Costa Azul, a place where men fished for sharks in open boats 50 to 100 miles offshore, no safety equipment, no life vests, a Ziploc bag for your phone in case you got close enough to shore to have signal. That was it. These men called themselves Los Tiburoneros, the shark hunters. Salvador fit right in. He drank hard. He spent everything he made. He had 3 girlfriends. He hadn't spoken to his daughter in 8 years. But on the water, he was the best they had. He could catch fish with his bare hands. He could read the ocean the way others read a map. On November 17, 2012, he took out a 22-year-old rookie named Ezequiel Cordoba. They had never spoken before that day. They planned to be back in 30 hours. The storm came fast. 5 days of gale force winds. 10-foot waves from every direction. Salvador had seen storms before. He had been fishing these waters for years. He knew what the ocean looked like when it wanted to kill you. This was different. The waves hit from 3 sides at once. The boat filled with water faster than they could bail it out. Salvador and Ezequiel fought all night to keep the boat from sinking, bailing water with their hands, screaming at each other over the wind, hour after hour. At some point, they could still see the mountains, 24 kilometers away, so close. Then the motor died. One moment it was running, the next, silence. Just the sound of water and wind and 2 men realizing what had just happened. And the wind pushed them back, slowly at first, then faster. Salvador grabbed the radio, got one last transmission out to his boss on shore, screaming their position before the battery died mid-sentence. His boss heard enough to send help. A search team went out. 2 days. They found nothing. Of course they found nothing. The boat was painted blue on one side and white on the other. It matched the ocean perfectly. They had no flares, no emergency beacon, no life vests, no oars, no paddles, no anchor, no way to slow down, no way to steer, no way to make themselves visible in 6,000 miles of open water. The search team turned back. The ocean took them west, and it did not stop. Nobody was coming. The first weeks were the worst. No food, no water. Salvador's tongue swelled so large he could not speak. They drank their own urine, warm, bitter. It made them sicker. They drank it anyway. Then the rain came. They stripped off their clothes and stood in it, laughing, faces tilted up, collecting every drop in plastic bottles they found floating in the ocean, a 55-gallon oil drum, everything they could find drifting past in the current. When it stopped raining, it was the first time either of them laughed. Then Salvador went to work. He caught turtles with his bare hands, grabbing them as they surfaced beside the boat, ate them raw, every part. The meat, the organs, the bones, nothing was wasted. He caught fish with his fingers, no hooks, no lines, just his hands in the water moving slowly, waiting until a fish passed close enough to grab. A skill he had learned as a child in El Salvador. A skill that was now keeping him alive in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The sun cooked them alive during the day. They flipped the icebox upside down and both climbed inside, hunched over, crammed into a space the size of a refrigerator. Doctors later found they had slipped vertebrae from being in that position for so long. At night they climbed back inside and held each other for warmth. 2 men. on a boat the size of an SUV in the middle of the largest ocean on Earth. Cargo ships passed on the horizon, enormous, moving fast. Salvador signaled with a shaving mirror the size of a baseball, tied burning shirts to sticks. Nothing. The ships disappeared. Every time. He began to wonder if they were real, or if his mind, alone for so long, was beginning to fill the ocean with things that weren't there. He never found out. After 4 months, Ezekiel stopped eating. He had gotten sick from the raw food. He had lost hope. His church back home had told him before he left that someone had dreamed he would die at sea. He believed it now. Salvador begged him, forced food into his mouth, held him through the nights. It wasn't enough. Ezekiel Cordoba died somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. At age of 22, Salvador held the body for 6 days. 6 days, talking to him, refusing to let go. Then he slid him into the water, and then he decided he would survive. He created a shark detection system, threw bird feet into the water. If no sharks came, he lowered himself in and swam for 5 minutes beside the boat. He talked to imaginary friends. He sang hymns. He prayed out loud every day. He thought about his daughter, 13 years old, living with her mother in El Salvador. He hadn't spoken to her in 8 years. He made a promise. He would get home. He would see his daughter. He would tell her he was sorry for every year he was absent, for every year she grew up without him. 338 more days, alone. On January 30th, 2014, Salvador saw mountains. He had not seen land in 438 days. He swam ashore on a tiny island called Tile Islet. He had a knife in his hand. His beard was down to his chest. He could barely walk. He knocked on the door of the only house on the island. 2 people opened it. He screamed at them in Spanish. They didn't understand a word. He was taken to a hospital in Majuro. 11 days later, he flew home to El Salvador, his first time on a plane. When he landed, he saw his daughter. He grabbed her and sobbed. "I know I didn't raise you, and all those years are lost. But Dad is here now." Neither of them spoke for a long time. The man who had survived 438 days completely alone was finally not alone anymore. Nobody believed him. Journalists called him a liar. Doctors said the human body could not survive that long at sea. Oceanographers said the drift was physically impossible. Salvador didn't argue. He sat in the hospital and refused to speak to reporters. He called them las cucarachas, the cockroaches. Then the University of Hawaii ran the ocean current models. Every buoy, every drift pattern, every recorded current in the Pacific for those 14 months. Everything matched. He had drifted exactly where the ocean would have taken him, 6,000 miles, in a near straight line west, exactly as he described. The oceanographers who doubted him went quiet, but the worst was still coming. Cordoba's family filed a lawsuit, $1 million. They accused Salvador of the unthinkable, a claim he has always denied, of keeping the body not for 6 days, but using it. Salvador said nothing publicly. He took a lie detector test. He passed. His lawyer denied everything. The lawsuit went nowhere. But the accusation never fully disappeared. In some places, it still hasn't. Today, Salvador Alvarenga lives in El Salvador, in a small town in the mountains, surrounded by land, as far from the ocean as he can get. He developed a crippling fear of water after coming home, couldn't shower, couldn't swim, couldn't look at the sea. The man who survived 438 days on the Pacific is terrified of water. He broke the world record nobody wants to break, the longest any human being has ever survived alone at sea, 438 days. He didn't navigate, he didn't sail, he didn't row, he just refused to die. And when people ask him how he did it, he says the same thing every time. He thought about his daughter. That was enough.